Good afternoon to everybody. This is PREETHAM Kumar, Assistant Professor, Department of Biotechnology, AJK College of Arts and Science, Coimbatore. Today we are going to see about the essentials of pharmacology. So what is pharmacology? Pharmacology is the study of interaction of drugs with the biological system. So there are various subdisciplines in pharmacology. Say for example, pharmacodynamics, pharmacokinetics, pharmacogenetics, pharmacognosy, posology, toxicology, and etc. So mainly we'll be focusing on pharmacodynamics and pharmacokinetics. Pharmacodynamics, which states the effect and mechanism of drug action, and pharmacokinetics, in which we will be studying about the movement of drug throughout the body, and pharmacogenetics. Each and every people have their own genetics, their own genome organization, and their body's response to a drug varies. So which will be detailedly studied in the subdiscipline of pharmacogenetics, and pharmacognosy. So in which the study of medicines or the crude drug produced from natural resources such as plants, animals, all those things are studied in pharmacognosy. And posology is concerned mostly with the dosage regimen and the treatment dosage. And coming to toxicology, the name itself states, like it is about the studying of drugs or the studying of harmful effects of the drugs to the human body. So as I said already, though there are various other disciplines such as clinical pharmacognosy, clinical epidemiological studies in pharmacology, mostly the pharmacology study is concerned with pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics. So the pharmacodynamics states that the drug action metabolism, effects of a drug, and also some parts of toxicology and the clinical response of a drug to a body. In other words, pharmacodynamics can be stated like what the body does to the drug. So pharmacokinetics. Pharmacokinetics is the processes that a drug undergoes in a body. Mostly we will be terming it as ADME properties. So A stands for absorption, D stands for distribution, M stands for metabolism, and E stands for excretion. Absorption. As the drug is ingested, the drug will be absorbed by the body and will be taken by the bloodstream to the target site. And the distribution is the part in which the unmetabolized drug is distributed throughout the body and also to the targeted site. And metabolism is the biotransformation of a drug. And the elimination, as it states, it's the removal of administered drug from the body. Coming to the pharmacodynamics deals with the action site, action mechanism of a drug, the effect of the drug in the body, and some parts of toxicology and also clinical response. Now we'll discuss about the drug receptor binding. When a drug binds to its receptor, only then the efficacy and the potency of a drug can be studied. So drug and receptor binding is very much important for producing the desired effects in the body. So the drug binds to their respective receptor in variety of ways depending on various characteristics. Say for example, ionic interaction. Ionic interaction is done basically with the nature of the ions. Say it as cation or anionic nature of the drug and receptor binding thing. So the drug has to be binded with the receptor in order to produce the desired effect in our body. So drug receptor binding. Drugs binding to the respective receptor in a variety of ways depending on the characteristics of the drug and also the characteristic nature of the receptor. So a drug binds to a receptor in various ways. Say for example with the help of ionic interaction, that is the cationic and anionic nature, and based on the hydrogen bonding pattern and the lipophilic interaction and the covalent bonding. Of these, the covalent bonding is a irreversible drug and receptor binding concept. Now we'll see the factors affecting the effect of a drug. So the drug dosage, in which the effect of drug increases with the increased amount of drug up to the point of the receptor saturation. And the number of receptors that is present in a tissue is also a major fact that affects the effect of a drug. So the number of receptors play a major role. Like each tissue express a different type of receptor. So therefore, it mediates different levels of biological response based on the number of receptors present in a tissue. And coming to the diseased state. Disease state also affects the effect of a drug binding to a receptor and all those things. Drug efficacy or intrinsic activity is what we usually say. The ability to activate or block a receptor is called as drug's efficacy. And intrinsic value can be termed as the maximum effect that a drug can produce regardless of the dosage that we are administering to the patient. And drugs potency and drugs affinity of affinity of the drugs with the receptor also a major factor that affects the effect of a drug. So the rate of drug receptor binding and the drug receptor release plays a major role in this all aspects. So now we'll see the medications and their impacts. Two terms are widely said in pharmacology, which is efficacy and the potency. Efficacy usually cannot be changed by increasing the dose beyond that which elicits its maximal response. Whereas in case of potency, it is also the intrinsic value of the given drug, or the effects of drug may be increased by using higher doses, because potency refers to the rate of drug and receptor binding and the dissociation. But whereas if you see the efficacy refers to the resultant biological response that happens after the drug binding with the receptor. So as the drug's efficacy increases, so does the maximum biological response that it can produce in the body. Now we'll see the main classes of receptor ligands in pharmacology. So a receptor is there in the body or the tissue, say for a thing. So here the receptor will be present in the tissue, and the ligand is the drug that binds to the receptor in order to produce the desired effect in our body. So based on some of the classifications of main classes of the main classes of receptor ligands in pharmacology are agonist and antagonist. So agonists are the drugs that usually activates the receptor, and whereas the antagonist drugs are administered in order to produce inhibitory effect in the body. So this agonist can be further classified into full agonist, partial agonist and inverse agonist. Full agonist is the one which produces maximal biological response, and the name itself states partial agonist, in which only the partial effect of the full agonist will be produced in partial agonist. And inverse agonists are the drugs that produces opposite biological response to that of the endogenous agonists. So we studied so many things, and we need to know the sources of the crude drug. Only with the help of crude drug we can synthesize the synthetic drugs. So the major source of crude drugs are plant. So in which the significant number of synthetic drugs are obtained usually from the plant precursors. Say for example, digoxin is derived from digitalis species. Sanacid is derived from Senna alexandrina species, likewise. And the second major source of crude drugs are animals. Say for example, honey that has various therapeutic properties is obtained from honeybee. And say for example, insulin in previous days is obtained from the pancreas of slaughtered pigs. Likewise, mineral is also another main source of crude drugs. highly purified form of naturally occurring mineral substances is used in medicines. Say for example, sulfur is mostly used in bacteriostatic drug production. And then coming to the marine sources. Marine sources are the coming to the marine sources. Marine sources serves as the compounds of interest both in their natural form and as templates to synthetic modification. There are various molecules that are isolated from marine organisms and are under study. So the number of anti-cancer drugs, antibacterial drugs, antiviral drugs are also isolated from the marine resources. Nowadays, currently research from ulnar reticulata. An example for marine derived drugs. An example for marine derived drug includes the compound that is isolated from ulnar reticulata species, which is South Indian. So one of the major example that we can state here for marine resources include ulnar reticulata species is a seaweed, a form of seaweed that is found in the South Indian regions. So the compound isolated from this species is found to have neuroprotective effects, and the studies are still underway. And the other sources of crude drug include plant tissue culture, crude drug obtained from plant tissue culture facilities. So plant tissue culture refers to the controlled production of drugs, say mainly secondary metabolites that can be derived from these PTCs. So the example includes the extraction of compounds from callus culture and extraction of various compounds from suspension culture and all those things. And we'll see the different drug forms. So mostly solid, liquid and other external forms of drugs are available in the market. So in the liquid form, aqueous solution drugs are mostly in tonic cases, we'll be seeing it. And emulsion is a type of liquid drug form in which emulsifying agent is added, and it has fatty acid content mixed along with water, and emulsifying agent is added which finally produces the emulsion drug form. And gels we all know, and magmas are the drug form which is usually which is similar to that of gels, but it is used in treatment of indigestion and all those things. Milk of magnesia are example for magma crude forms of magma forms of drug. And then comes the mixture. These things are all included in liquids. Coming to the solid forms, powder form, capsules that are made up of gelatin or non-animal derived sources, tablets, pellets, and also pills which are replacing widely the tablets and pellet forms nowadays. Lozenges and troches are a form of drug in which the saliva is simply used for intaking the drug. Say for example, cough, the drugs that are administered for cough is the drugs that are administered for cough relief is an example of lozenges and troches. Other external forms of drugs includes liniment, ointment, lotions that are simply rubbed into the skin, paste, suppositories, sprays and inhalants. So there are so many different routes of drug administration into the body. So it can be administered orally, that is via mouth, intravenous, that is via veins, intramuscular, that is via muscle, subcutaneous, that is via skin, and sublingual, that is under the tongue, buccal, that is the region between the gum and cheek part, and it can also be administered via rectal or vagina. And apart from that, by the ocular route, and apart from that, via the ocular route, that is via the eyes, or via the aortic route. Aortic stands for ears, and nasal, that is nose, through inhalation process or through nebulization via the nasal part. So there are various other routes of drug administration. That is, the drug can be administered via orally, that is via mouth. Intravenous is through vein, and intramuscular through muscle. Subcutaneous, that is through skin. Sublingual, that is under the tongue. Buccal, that is the region present in between the cheek and the gum, and it can also be administered via rectal or vaginal administration. It can also be administered by the ocular route, that is via the eyes, and via the aortic route, that is via the ears. Nasal, that is via the nose. And in nasal part, the administration can be in the form of inhalation or nebulization, in which the drug is administered to reach the lungs via the nose. And through subcutaneous part, which can be also via the topical administration or through the systemic thing. Topical administration is given for localized effect, and systemic administration is given for body-wide effects. And via the transdermal, that is also through the skin. Apart from this, there is also another type of administration, that is intrathecal, that is administered that is the region administered. Apart from this, there is another type of administration, that is intrathecal, in which the drug is administered around the backbone. Some of the notable drug classifications include alcohol, opioids. Some of the notable drug classification includes alcohol, opioids, benzodiazepines, hallucinogens, cannabinoids, and barbiturates. So these drug classifications are said to be notable because many drug compositions contains all these kind of drugs. Apart from this, there is another type of classification in which, based on the activity of drug in killing the organism, is used for classification. Say for example, bactericidal drugs is used for killing the bacteria. Bacteriostatic drugs are there, in which the drug does not affect the drug. Bactericidal drugs are there, which bacteriostatic drugs are there, in which the drug does not affect the bacteria by killing it, but instead it affects the bacteria by arresting the stages of bacteria and all those things. And antiviral drugs are there, in which the drug is administered Antiviral drugs are there, in which the drug is administered against the virus. Antiparasitics are there, in which the drug is administered to exhibit its action against parasites. Likewise, various other drug classifications are also there. Now, once after the medication is administered, prior to that, we need to do certain things. So, which is the steps followed in drug administration includes diagnosing, planning, implementing, and evaluating. So diagnosing is the thing in which the nature of medical condition is understood, and the planning is done in which the say for example we need to plan when the drug has to be administered, what drug has to be administered, when it has to be administered, and at what interval it has to be administered. So all those things comes under planning part. And implementing part is the putting in action of what we planned, and evaluating is the assessing part, which can be done in later stages. Some of the common medical errors include the medical errors that happens in dose, the medical errors that happens in therapy, the medical errors that happens in compliance error. The compliance error means like once after the dosage and medication has been provided by the doctor to the patient won't be following it in accordance. So which comes under the compliance error. And the types of medication that we are providing. And there are various strategies that are available to prevent the errors. So which includes barriers and automations, standardization of protocols, alerts and warnings, policies, rules and reminders, and implementing various educational programs, and updating the information in order to reduce the errors, and follow the processes which are laid by medical practitioners or researchers, and the patient's health has to be considered at first in order to prevent all those errors. So the patient history has to be identified for whatever the process which we said so far. So first we need to arrange a session with the patient, and we need to explore and we need to examine the patient. This examination can be of both physical or non-physical techniques. Once after the examination is over, we need to plan the treatment accordingly, and we need to close the patient history. So there are various dosage calculation methods, but still one common method is used, in which the formula D by H into V is equal to A is used. So this is called as desired overlap or formula method, which is widely used, which is a widely used equation to solve the unknown quantity of the drug, much likely to that of the ratio of proportion. So in this calculation method, the D stands for desired drug dosage, H stands for dose on hands, V stands for vehicle, and A stands for the amount of drug that has to be given. So coming to the interaction of drugs. So the drug, once administered in the body, has various interactions. So the drug can be interacting. So the drug can be interacting with the disease, or the drug can be interacting with the allergy or food or gene. So there are certain drugs which react with diseases, which might affect in the absorption of drug in the body, and there are drugs that can trigger allergic responses in certain individuals, and the drug interaction with food also do matters. Say for example, when the antibiotic is administered with dairy products, it might cause certain undesirable effects in the body. And drug gene interaction happens when there is a mutation or something that happens in drug metabolizing enzyme, or the gene that encodes for drug metabolizing enzymes has repetitions or something in various intrude, or something like that in various individuals. And the adverse reaction of the drugs has to be considered very seriously. So once after the drug is administered, the nature of the drug might result in various adverse reactions in the body. So this type of drug reactions causes various undesirable or harmful effects in our body, and this can be of either short time or long time. The short time adverse drug reaction includes its effects in augmented, or it affects bizarre in condition. So the short time adverse drug reactions includes in augmented effects or in bizarre effects, and the long time adverse drug reactions include chronic effects, delayed effects, and post treatment effects. This adverse drug reaction can simply be also coined as ADRs. So after completing all those things, after having the gist of all those pharmacological things, we need to know the future directions of the pharmacology, right? So the future directions of pharmacology includes precision medicine, like a medicine particularly can be targeted for a particular disease, or digital health integration, or implementation of artificial intelligence in the process of drug discovery, and biologics and gene therapies, immunotherapy dominance, drug repurposing and rejuvenation, and various other aspects. So the future directions of the pharmacology has to be studied, right? So which includes the precision medicine, in which the targeted drug therapy is given, digital health integration, artificial intelligence in drug discovery, biologics and gene therapies, immunotherapy dominance, drug repurposing and rejuvenation. So after completing all these, so with all this, I hope that you would have got a gist of what pharmacology is, what its future direction is, what are all its effects in the body, and what are the sub-disciplines that are into the pharmacology aspects and all those things. Hope it will be helpful for you people. Thank you.